Democrats are calling me up and they're saying, sir, I want to thank you. My wife and I went out to dinner last night for the first time in 4 years. And Washington, D.C. is safe. And you did that in 4 days. I'll tell you, it's safe.
That was President Trump touting his crime crackdown in D.C., and it looks like it's already paying off. Since the operation kicked off on August 7th, cops have made more than 380 arrests, and the locals are breathing easier, finally walking streets that aren't ruled by teen thugs and chaos. But leave it to the Democratic Party to scoff at public safety.
All of this is a total abuse of power. It's a manufactured emergency.
What's happening here in Washington, D.C. is just a stunt. Donald Trump didn't like the fact that the walls were closing in on him. And so true to form, he just decided to create a new news cycle.
This is nothing but a big dog and pony show to make people look like everything is so bad in these big black cities.
Plain and simple. Donald Trump wants to distract.
So, Dana, you have all these Democrats saying this is a distraction, abuse of power, it's a fake emergency. But the Department of Justice and FBI put out every morning who they've arrested, what they've arrested them for,
being
what their
very
crimes
transparent. And I'm not surprised that Senator Van Hollen, who went to a foreign country to visit an illegal immigrant gang member who was also accused of domestic violence, is upset that there's a crackdown on D.C. crime. You also have all of these white liberals on Twitter say things like, I've had my car broken into 6 times, but I'm still against this. I also believe that we're just at the beginning stages, right? So one of the things you and I talked about this morning is that a lot of people take the train. A lot of people use that as the metro station at Union Station. It has been horrible for about a decade, right? Yeah. Homeless people, drug use. It's uncomfortable to go there, and nobody wants to go there, but how else are you going to get up and back and forth to D.C. and elsewhere? So that was one of the first places that got addressed. You saw some criticism over the weekend, like yesterday, saying, well, wait, why isn't he in we don't have anything in our neighborhood yet. I think it's been a week. Let's see how it goes. But in addition to having a presence of the law enforcement, that helps, obviously, but it will be in the prosecution. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that they're going to have is some changes to those city council laws. And so all of this is happening while there's this amazing transparency to say, would you have preferred that we not arrest these people? Yeah. And I don't think that their answer would be yes.
Yeah, and they finally have a crime lab that can now do some testing. They still can't do ballistics testing, however. They have to send that out. So, Greg, there's a big difference between feeling safe and actually being safe. Mm-hmm. And when you take hundreds of people off the streets who have done things like stab others while they're at Union Station, for example, you actually are safer in D.C.
I just worry that Trump is targeting our most vulnerable stabbers.
Yeah, you got to walk out for them.
It is hysterical how every time the media interviews an actual D.C. citizen, hoping for a viral clip of them bashing Trump, it's never that way. It's always the opposite, and they're always black. Meanwhile, you look at the protests, and they're whiter than Brian Kilmeade's fan club. It's there's nothing more harmful to a black person than a virtue-signaling white liberal. If they are responsible for more suffering than drugs, crime, poverty, because they're the ones that are always defending and or enabling it, so you can't get better. I'm waiting for the argument to come out that since crime and chaos has gone down in D.C., they've lost a bit of their culture. You know, I used to remember going down to D.C. It was so exciting. You never knew if you were going to make it home. Man, I like it back when they had the sex workers and the carjackers. That's the conversation you used to get about New York in the 70s. Oh, the peep shows. That was amazing. You had pimps everywhere. Stuff written by guys that Jesse loves to read. Where am I? Oh, Slim. This also proves that the broken window policing actually works. That when you enhance the neighborhood and you make it safer from smaller infractions, then larger infractions don't take place. For a while there, the libertarians were peddling a study saying, oh, it didn't work. But the stats turned out to be completely unreliable. What was reliable were your eyes and your ears. Anybody who lives in a neighborhood with broken windows policing can tell you that it works. Nice places are victimized less, and if you can't stop graffiti, you're telling criminals you can't stop anything. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Jesse, the president's been getting a little criticism because they're saying, well, they're only sending the National Guard troops to places like the National Mall and the monuments and places where the tourists go. It's like, yeah, that's kind of the point. So Americans can go visit their capital city. And by the way, earlier this year, one of those gangs that, on the Forerunners and all the motorbikes, they rode through the World War II Memorial on the National Mall in the middle of the night. So they actually are needed on the National Mall.
I was in Maine when this broke, and we didn't have access to TV or internet. And so it came up at dinner with my liberal family members who live in D.C. And they were like, yeah, crime's pretty bad. And they were like, what? They didn't call him a fascist. They didn't call him a dictator. They didn't push back at all. They're like, yeah, our homeless problem is out of control. And that tells me they're secretly happy about it, just like they're secretly happy about the border and the trans stuff and the fact that their taxes didn't go up, Harold Ford Jr. They are basically wearing hats that say Trump was right about everything. Not really, but we know the hat you're really wearing. Pirro can now prosecute people, something she was born to do, something she dreams about. And those aren't nightmares. Those are nightmares for the people she's prosecuting. And she's not prosecuting Republican grandfathers who trespass and put their feet up on Pelosi's desk. Hardcore criminals. That's who's getting the boot. And the fact that Trump is cleaning up graffiti, bad hombres, criminals, and everything else in D.C., and the Democrats are saying, we're against that. That has to be the dumbest thing I've ever heard. They're calling it a power grab. Yeah, it is a power grab. Democrats had this power to fight crime, weren't using it, so Trump grabbed their power and used it to fight crime. Americans like power grabs like that.
Well, in the case of the District of Columbia, it actually is a federal district, so he's just taking back the power, which originally is with the federal government, not with the D.C. Council, even though they still have to change their laws. Harold, would you like to respond to the accusations against Democrats that love criminals and don't want to fight crime?
We absolutely know. Everyone knows we don't like that. Don't support that. But I think some of the things
Chris
that we're
Van Hollen does.
No, I know Chris. Chris is not a proponent of crime, but I think he's wrong here the way Democrats are going about doing this. I've said for some time. I think someone framed it. Communities that are safe. If someone's telling you the numbers in your community suggest you should be safe. If someone's telling you the numbers around the economy suggest you're doing well, but you don't believe you're doing well or you feel unsafe, then you're unsafe. I think we could quarrel about whether there should be this number of tanks, this number of National Guard in a neighborhood or what neighborhoods they should go to. But one thing is for certain, there is no doubt people feel safer in Washington, D.C. over the last several days after the things that are happening in the city. I've said to Democrats, if there are things we don't like about what President Trump is doing in this regard, you can't deny the predicate here. There's a crime problem. There's a violent crime problem. We think we have better answers, then offer legislation to do it. I've also said to President Trump that I think a national crime bill would probably be the better way to ensure that you can democratize or spread this across the country. Because as Katie just said, and I think this is one of the worst things that's happened to taxpayers in a while, that D.C. residents aren't treated as a state. But since they're not, President Trump and any president has the authority there because the federal government has the rights to do the things that they're doing there. Democrats, why not offer a broken windows bill? Jesse said it well. Why not say we want to provide more money for cities to stop illegal vending and outdoor drug use and loud music and abandoned vehicles? They're very small things that impact neighborhoods and communities that many of you, those of you in elected office, never have to deal with. Greg talks about this all the time about people who are in elected office who say they want to defund the police, but they have policemen around them. If you live in a neighborhood where crime is rampant, if you live in a neighborhood where you're worried about your kids being able to go to school, walk to a store in the corner, you welcome these things. So Dems, get your heads out of your and realize that in order for us to address this, address it with a countermeasure, not the things that you guys are saying, because I can assure you, this issue is going to bite us like the border did if we don't pay attention.
Yeah, well, I remember Tim Scott introducing legislation in the first term, and Democrats torpedoed it. So up next, Gavin Newsom has blood on his hands after an illegal alien from California causes a deadly car crash.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.